showing you how to work the camera. Hangouts on Air is now live. Okay. There I go, right? I can't even. Okay. I don't have my my welcome notes. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. This is session 3, meaning the third book that we're reading, and meeting 8. Our text is Medical Apartheid, the Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the present. And tonight we are focused on Chapter 7, a notoriously syphilis-soaked race, what really happened at Tuskegee. My name is Michelle Odom. I am the co-host of the Reading Circle and tonight's moderator. Let's go around and do our introductions. As I said, Randie Henderson, who is the other co-host, is going to join us about 7 o'clock this evening. So let's start with Georgette.
Good evening, everyone. I am Georgette Moses. I'm participating from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy you are here. Georgette is a regular. And Kim.
I'm Kim Brandon, and I'm joining everyone from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm grateful that we're having these discussions. Happy about it? I don't know, but I just think it's necessary.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And Venita?
Good evening. My name is Venita Walker, and I'm joining you from Connecticut. Welcome.
And I should say I also am in Brooklyn, New York. And I agree, Kim. You guys know I read the book before the start of the session, just immediately before the start of the session. But I am finding that it is still difficult, but a lot easier to go through this material when I have a place on a regular basis to discuss all the things that come up, and so much comes up. So I do believe the Reading Circle is a helpful approach to dealing with the very difficult topics in Black history. And there are a lot of difficult topics in Black history. Excuse me. Georgette, did you mention to Joel that we gave him a chapter?
Yes, I did. And he was complaining. He said he hoped it wasn't a big one like the last one.
They're all pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The small ones are big because they're full of information.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, everybody here knows the format, so let's skip that. And I will read the summary since, as Joel said last week, they're my words. Okay. Between 1932 and 1972, 399 Black men were enrolled and monitored in a study on the progression of untreated syphilis, a known killer, without their knowledge or consent. A control group of 200 uninfected men were also added to the population of subjects. Author Harriet A. Washington reveals in Chapter 7, A Notoriously Syphilis-Soaked Race, what really happened at Tuskegee. Details about the actors, motives, and actions of those who designed and carried out this well-publicized example of medical violence. By 1955, nearly one-third of the autopsied men had died directly of syphilis, and many of the survivors were suffering its deadliest complications, we learn. And further, 40 wives were infected and at least 19 children were born with syphilitic birth defects. Washington begins with an examination of the oppressive conditions among African Americans in Macon County, Alabama, when the Depression-era study was started, and delivers readers to the day in 1997 when President Bill Clinton apologized to the few living subjects whose lives had been forever harmed by intentional acts of the U.S. government. Along the way, she reveals details of her own original research with living members of the ad hoc panel who ultimately ended the study, places the study in the context of other and subsequent medical abuse of African Americans, offers some conclusions about the study's meaning and place in American history and race relations, considers its impact on current research practices, and shares her perceptions of the contributions of the Tuskegee syphilis study to fears Blacks carry about the healthcare system and its impact on the collective health of African Americans. So I'm going to not read the timeline, but it is there in the notes just for our future reference. And one of the things that I saw by doing the timeline was that it was exactly 100 years from 1898 when Booker T. Washington met Julius Rosenwald to 1998 when the Bioethics Center was opened at Tuskegee. And boy, did a lot of things happen in between. So let's get into that. Of course, as usual, I have way more questions than we will possibly be able to answer. But I think what I'd like to do is have someone read each section and read all of the questions with that section. And then we'll choose probably one or two questions out of each section to actually focus on. So let's start in the beginning, and would someone read that piece?
I can do that. According to a Wikipedia article, a Judas goat is a trained goat used in general animal herding. The Judas goat is trained to associate with sheep or cattle, leading them to a specific destination. In stockyards, a Judas goat will lead sheep to slaughter, while its own life is spared. The term is reference to the biblical character Judas, how do you say that?
Iscariot.
Iscariot. After the medical program planned for Macon County, Alabama by Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald fell through, the United States government, through its Public Health Service, PHS, seized the opportunity to step in and establish its own program in the area. They offered medical service to the community and financial incentives to participants in the Tuskegee syphilis study. Thinking about the expression, "You should never look a gift horse in the mouth," what do you think this means And is it good advice?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody? Well, I think the expression, you should never look a gift horse in the mouth, means that you should be grateful for whatever anyone gives you that they didn't have to give you. Um, and not turn it down or look your nose down on it or say, oh, that's not my favorite color. you know, you should be happy that someone has given you something. And so I don't know if that's the common understanding of that expression, but that's what I think it means. And when I think about it in the context of the things that happened at Tuskegee, it makes me want to say you should look a gift horse in the mouth. You should examine its teeth, smell its breath, look down its throat, and really think about whether or not that thing which you are getting for free is really free and really good for you. So I would say no, it's not always good advice to not look a gift horse in the mouth. Anybody else?
I agree. I think that you got to get a second opinion. You got to question something, because if you're not getting any better and everybody that you know is not getting any better, then at some point, especially after penicillin was available, it just seemed like you had to check the horse's feet, his hindquarters, everything, because other gift horses were helping people.
Yeah.
And to not be, I think shame gets in the way of us looking the horse in the mouth, shame and the fear of being seen or perceived as ignorant. Because I think that, if I was in the 40s and the 50s and I was inflicted, I don't know if I want people to know about it, which would prevent me from asking what people are doing down the road or the next town over.
Well, one of the things though is that some of the men, really did try to go out of their way to get help in other places, but with all the doctors in the local area, I don't know about all of them, but the black doctors in the local area had agreed not to treat them. And one of the things that I just found astounding was the way they tracked these men, really hunted them over the 40 years. So anytime they showed up at another clinic, anywhere, their name was on a list, and they were turned away. So it's just astounding.
Yes.
Well, it's historical with this country, because if you look at what the blankets they gave the Indians that were saturated with smallpox, hey.
Ooh.
We need to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yes, yes.
I believe, if I may say so, that I believe that God got in their way. Now, I know a lot of people probably shake their head at that, but you're dealing with a lot of poor people. And the only thing they know is poor and God will provide. How many times have I heard that and it turned out that I'm the provider and God ain't providing?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. So these people, as I remember reading, thought it was a God sent. And I can imagine, I can just vision these people have been to many parts of the southern states and have had families that live there today in the southern states. This vision these people thinking it's a God sent.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that God also got in their way of reasoning.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? As God has gotten in the way of reasoning of a lot of black folk. God will provide. Meanwhile, we're starving to death, but God will provide. No, last I checked, God has not dropped any mortgage checks down here in 17 Scott Lane at all, or dropped any food in my refrigerator. However, if you believe in God, you might feel that God's provided you with the health, your brain, your body, the wherewithal to go out and provide.
Mm-hmm.
But God or Jesus never dropped anything down here. So I just think it's the whole mentality, which brings them not to question. Also, a lot of them not to question because it's in God's hand. God's going to take care of it. God sent these people. They're going to help us. We should sit back and be patient. God works in his own time, but God will prevail. And I think that was one of the reasons why they bother to some to seek second opinions or some to try to escape that period because they were waiting for God, and these were God-sent people that promised these folks that they would help them. They would treat them for the available medicine they had. They would treat them as they look for other medications for that disease. So I think God got in their way more than anything else. I don't know what we're doing.
Well, thank you. I didn't see that coming.
I'm sure people would disagree. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm not God-like, and I don't try.
Not me.
Well, yeah, you maybe not, but I am spiritual, and I do believe that black folks have hung on the hinge of the Lord to the point where it's actually retarded them at times. You know, God did give us a brain, though. Let's bear that in mind. That's why he gave us this wonderful thing called the brain, and we're supposed to use that. You know, so I don't know. I would have been dead anyway in 1932, 1825, 17.
Well, that is certainly true.
So it don't make any difference.
Let's go on to the hunt, which actually we have already talked about a little bit.
Can I just add one thing to what was just said?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the whole relationship between slaves and masters, there starts to be this worshiping of the master, that his race is God, and that what he says is God-like.
Yeah.
So I agree with what Venita is saying, that even though you're praying to this God, but all of a sudden the people who have the medicine and created the pills become God-like. And I always like the expression, you know, pray to God, but row to shore. If you're drowning, yeah, you can pray to God, but you better row to shore.
Here you go.
That's a good one.
Row or something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But don't get me wrong. I'm not. I feel for that. I understand and believe me. You know, and I know that's all they had to hold on to. If you don't have any money, you don't have any rights, you don't have anything else, that's all they had to hold on to, was the hope that God would provide. So I understand that totally. And I'm not criticizing them for that. I'm just saying it's just sad. You know what I'm saying? That people would take advantage of people the way they did because they know that's all they have. You know. So I understand that.
I got you.
I got you.
The hunt.
Okay, I'll read that. The government of the United States of America hunted these 600 black men for 40 years, anxiously awaiting their demise so that their bodies might be dissected and used to learn more about the progression of untreated syphilis. Everywhere they went, everything they did, every breath they took, was caught by the ever-present watchful eye and long arm of Uncle Sam. This in the days before high technology. 7 presidents of the United States, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, and Richard Nixon came and went as the study raged on. Question number 2. Did you realize the government keeps ordinary citizens under this level of surveillance? Question 3. Are you aware of any other times law-abiding African American citizens have been surveilled at this level, and if so, what were the circumstances? Question 4. If one of these brothers had told you in, say, 1955 that he was being tracked by the government and his actions thwarted, do you think you would have believed him? Why or why not? Might you have considered him a paranoid conspiracy theorist? Question number 5. If you were the wife or lover of one of these men and he told you he was being treated for VD, but you kept being reinfected over and over again, would you have believed him? Would you have stayed with him? Question 6. At least 19 children who were fathered by the black male subjects of the Tuskegee syphilis study by 1955 were born with birth defects. Did the government owe a debt to them, in your opinion? Why or why not? And question 7. There is no mention of it in the text, but do you imagine those children were ever properly compensated by the U.S. government for the defects they were forced to live with?
Thanks, Georgette.
Well,
Wow.
You want to jump in, Venita?
yeah, girl.
Go ahead.
I know you've got some excess energy you got to let loose.
Yeah, I take it all for this evening.
All right.
Did you realize the government keeps ordinary citizens under this level of surveillance? Yes, they're probably looking at us right now.
Indeed.
Are you aware of any other times?
That's why I did my hair.
Look at Georgette, she all pretty. Look at us, right? So we gotta make sure they have something good to look at. Yeah, there's many times, and since I've been alive, that I believe that, and I know that a lot of Afro Americans have been under surveillance. Men have been. Anyone that fought for their rights or fought for our rights was under 24-hour surveillance. From Malcolm X to Martin Luther King to Stokely Carmichael, you can name 195 of them. So yes, all of them were under surveillance, 24 hours a day, and some of them even showed up dead. That's how much under surveillance they were. So that I do agree with. And if someone told me that they were under surveillance that closely in 1955, had I been around, yes, I would have believed them. Taking into account that we all know, and we just went through 8 presidents, that no one really gives a damn. We all know that in 1955, we were still walking the other side of the street, drinking out of separate water fountains. Schools have said, why would you even question that? You know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't that be ployable? You know, so yes, I would believe that. Now, the wife of the gentleman that had VD, I guess we were born at a different time. Because he would have been on his own anyway. Well,
Before or after?
Being reinfected back and forth. And no, I wouldn't have to worry about that. Even if it killed me, it would be a one-shot deal. So I don't know where Michelle got that question. And why would she put that on? What? No, no. I mean, that makes sense. That question's crazy as hell. No, he'd have been on his own. Okay. He couldn't depend on Venita. I wouldn't have been his girl. I said, boy down.
This was an era when women stood by their men to death do us part.
I don't know what's up with them. I don't know what, I know that's what they did. That's why I was not born in that era. Because he would have been on his own. Okay? My grandmother, Nana, she was a rebel. What's the cause? Believe me, he would have been on his own with my grandmother. Oh, my great-grandmother, he would have been on his own. So, no, that's crazy. No, I wouldn't even been reinfected. No, I wouldn't even thought about it twice because he was in. Now,
there wasn't the big HIV scare. People weren't necessarily trying to use condoms all the time.
But you know, your husband, if he bringing home a venereal disease, that did say VD, did that? Did I read VD?
Yeah, VD.
Okay, that stands for venereal disease, whether it's gonorrhea, syphilis, and maybe, that means, unless you gave it to him, that he been barking up another tree. Now, I know back then women are a little different and they had to depend on the man to take care of 15, 20 kids they had. But let me tell you right now, it wouldn't have worked with Venita. Even if he stayed on the same roof to take care of 15, 5, 8 kids that we had. He wouldn't have been up in my bedroom, so we wouldn't have been infected back and forth.
But if he told you that he was in a treatment program, getting treatment.
I don't care. His treatment has nothing to do with me. I need to worry about my own damn treatment. I don't care about his treatment. I don't care if he get treated, period.
Venita done kicked him to the curb.
No, I'm trying to find out. I'm very serious about that. Whether he's treated or not would not have been. I wouldn't even ask them. I wouldn't even care if you treated. I'm too busy trying to learn about treated. I'm not, so it wouldn't have been a reinfestation, and I don't want to hear all that bullshit. Excuse the expression. I don't care if you're treated. So I wouldn't have been that wife to stand by your man. No. Case closed.
Okay.
Y'all laughing, but I'm very serious about that. I'm very serious. It wouldn't have been my business whether he's treated or not. If he was dead, I wouldn't have known. And wouldn't have cared. He had VD. Brought it home. To the house.
I know, but that that question came to me, when I really started thinking about what was happening in the personal lives of these men. How did it impact their families, their relationships, their ability to keep a girlfriend,
Well, apparently, it didn't impact them too much because the wives were still there. Okay, so it didn't impact the wife.
Some of them, we hear about 40 wives, but there were, 600,
Well, 40 wives is 40 too many. So 40 would have been enough to me out of 10,000. 40 of them stuck around. 40 of them
infected
by these men. So
yeah.
I mean, that's not a good question for me because I could care less.
Yeah.
I don't have any empathy for him whatsoever. And 40 women did stick around. That's why we had 19 children born with defects. Now maybe they were pregnant before their husband had syphilis, and they might have got pregnant in between them or after them. But the point is that 40 of them were around. So 40 of them.
Yeah, and I think after once syphilis goes into some latent stage, that's the long period of it. I don't know if you can actually infect people during that period. I don't know.
I'm not a syphilis expert. I just know if my husband came home with any type of venereal disease, he's on his own. Period.
Okay, thank you, Venita. Kim or Georgette, do you want to touch on any of those questions?
I forget most of the questions at this point. Um, I think that I didn't know that there was a non-sexual transmission of venereal diseases or syphilis.
Mm-hmm.
That
Congenital.
yeah, Miss Washington touched on.
Yeah.
So that gave me pause because if you are a sharecropper and you're doing that labor that you may have open wounds on your fingers from picking
Yes.
cotton, you may have open wounds everywhere. So if I just picked the same bush that you picked, it just seemed like it was this melting pot of how would you possibly stay healthy? I think the ones that stayed healthy were the lucky ones.
Right, right.
And I was talking to my brother this morning because I don't understand my whole family's history, and I'm learning more about that. But I do remember when I met my father's mother, she was already blind from syphilis, and so she put him out.
There you go.
So there you go. But at the same time, you can kind of see that when you ask about what the country should do for um, kids who were born with any type of being somewhat deformed, I think that the emotional deformity is one thing, but the emotional deformity is a whole nother thing for those families. Because it was called the dirty blood. So if you're under this, it's like being in prison. I think it was probably worse than being a leper.
Yeah.
If people found out that you had this disease.
Yeah.
And you thinking that you're treating it on the side when it's not being treated.
Right.
So it's just so much comes up from this particular chapter that it was good reading it, but it was a hard read.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. When I was reading it, and then Michelle, your question about would we have considered these people or a person a paranoid conspiracy theorist? Well, that made me think about a video I had watched recently about a CIA doctor who admitted that the government since 1962 had been experimenting on minority populations with directed satellite energy weaponry. So that's starting to come out. And these are people who, you see them on after they shot up somebody.
Right,
And
right.
then we say, oh, well, he had mental issues, but what doctors was he seeing? And, was he in the military? And there are some telltale signs, just like these gentlemen went through. You go to see the doctors, but the psychiatrists are already in on the game, just like the black doctors in this study were. So you go to find help, and they're still telling you you're crazy, but they know you're in the program. You're marked. And then the surveillance now is at such a high level, they can turn your cell phone on and listen to you. And every time you update an app, it's always asking for more permissions. Why does a map program or a dictionary program need access to my photo camera and my microphone? Okay, we have to pay attention to these small things because it seems innocuous on the surface, but hey, they've made us comfortable. Like they made these gentlemen comfortable, but bad things are happening. Bad things are happening to us, and they know we are easily lulled into a state of apathy because it's happening to somebody over there, and it hasn't happened to me, and I can deny it that it's real. So they can keep getting away with all their stuff until it comes out later because somebody sued the pants off of them, and now or there was a whistleblower who didn't make it to jail because they are jailing whistleblowers. And it finally comes out, and then you say, "Oh, so and so wasn't crazy. They really were, having these issues, and it was because the government did something to them." So,
absolutely.
and the government needs to provide reparations for these people, but they won't. They'll never do it completely because who was it? Didn't Bush put a cap on medical malpractice or whatever it suits? He put a cap on it.
Oh,
So
did he?
the lawyer is going to take most of whatever you get.
Mhm.
By the time the people who are actually hurt get some money, they just have enough to pay the rent.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, that's no deterrent because the corporation or the government's already factored in how much they have to pay the lawyer if they lose or if they win. So, I don't know.
When you said
But Venita, let's welcome Randie. Hello, Randie.
Hi,
Hi,
Randy.
hi,
Glad you made
Randy.
it.
You made it. Can
Yeah.
we hear your introduction, please, for the tape?
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Randy. I am watching from Atlanta, and I co-moderate with Michelle. I'm also at work, so he's all this. So,
Uh,
That's okay.
well, we're glad you made it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Venita.
I was just thinking when she mentioned the black physicians, um, that's what made the story even more sadder. Other
Mhm.
than Eugene Rivers, I think her name was. It was very sad.
Eunice.
Eunice, I'm sorry, Eunice Rivers. It's very sad that the black doctors were also in with this conspiracy.
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
Michelle and I were talking about a bottom, we talked about that last week. I think you remember the people having a bottom. How low will you go?
Mhm.
Or were they very well could have been those mulatto doctors that were the highfalutin Negroes. You know the type that mulatto. I mean, a lot of things start running through your head. You know what I'm saying? When you think about these things, where those hybrid Negroes, so they call them. They might have been passing, for no, you think about these things. You're already a physician. What did they gain from that?
Right.
I don't want to hear fear. I'm
Well,
tired of hearing.
however much melanin they had enough that they were trusted
Mhm.
Yes,
by the residents in the local area, and and it is precisely that trust that the government banked on and capitalized on. So, I mean, it's one of the, I think, hardest uh, lessons for for African Americans or Black people to learn. Um, but this chapter is a good illustration where virtually all of the heroes in this story are white, and a lot of the villains are white as well, but there aren't any black heroes that come through strongly. I mean, black people, you can't even say it's that we just didn't know about it. We were barred from the AMA. It's not that, because the black doctors and nurse or nurses that participated in the study, they knew about it. So the thing that I think is so hard for us to learn is just because somebody shares a skin tone with us does not necessarily make them our friend. And just because someone's skin tone differs from ours does not necessarily make them our enemy. Um, this woman now, Loretta Lynch, that is uh, being held up, but who has strong support on both sides of the aisle to become the next Attorney General. She looks like us. But there's a very interesting article. You see black people of every stripe supporting her and arguing about how long it's taking for the confirmation to play out. But there's a very interesting article by Black Agenda Report that really goes into her history as a Wall Street champion, comparing her to Condoleezza Rice. So, which I encourage everyone to look up. So, I think that this is really just one example. In fact, Harriet Washington refers to Eunice Rivers, Nurse Eunice Rivers, who is the black woman who tracked the men for most of the years of the study, because her job was to not lose track of them. Her job was to make sure that the men showed up for their autopsy. So she had to know where they were at all times. And so she would go to their homes and offer them a ride to their medical appointments and give them a couple of $1 or $2. And, she was a part of their community, someone they considered a friend. And she may not have clearly understood what she was doing. I'm not so sure about that, Venita. I mean, maybe she did, but maybe she didn't, because I'm allowing that people of that generation did not question things to the extent that we do.
Some did. There were a lot of
some did, but a lot didn't.
Yeah. No. Some did, but a lot didn't. But there were a lot of educated people, and there were a lot of people that asked questions that weren't educated. Had nothing to do with anything. I don't believe that she was totally oblivious.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I really do believe that she had a crappy job before, although, as we discussed that, Michelle, she had a paycheck. I think that she saw a better opportunity for herself, and it was at the expense of these black men. She did that for 25 years. How blind can a person be? You don't know nothing, even initially. You're not aware of something is wrong with this. 25 years of it?
I know.
Now, very much she knows. So we know that she's capable of learning and seeing and hearing and thinking. I will not make an excuse for that. I hope the devil and all his family and friends are dancing on her chest as she lays 6 feet under. That's pathetic. Absolutely. And I'm tired of making excuses. Well, this, well, that. 25 years? You didn't question anything? All right. Let's say these other folks did. You didn't question anything. All that, befriending them and that teeth showing thing that you did, no conversations came up during any of that time that you befriended them with these people having any reservations about what's going on. No, I don't believe it for a minute. I believe that, as black folks have done many times, and white folks and all kinds of folks, she was looking out for her own best interests. And if anything, she might have turned a blind eye so that she could have the courage to do what she was doing for 25 years.
I know. I get it. Let's move on, though, because it is now 7:21. How did we get here? Who can, Randie, what we're doing is we're reading whatever the letter is, and all of the questions that go with it. And then we're going to stop and choose one question from that batch. So can someone read point C and questions 8 to 10, please?
I'll read it. Ooh, okay. Into the Light. Another Wikipedia article says Judas Iscariot was, according to the New Testament, one of the 12 original apostles of Jesus Christ and son of Simon Iscariot. He is known for the kiss and betrayal of Jesus to the Sanhedrin for 30 silver coins. His name is often invoked to accuse someone of betrayal. Despite his notorious role in the gospel narratives, Judas remains a controversial figure in Christian history. Judas' betrayal, for instance, is seen as setting in motion the events that led to Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, which, according to traditional Christian theology, brought salvation to humanity. Gnostic texts rejected by the mainstream church is heretical, praise Judas for his role in triggering humanity's salvation, and views Judas as the best of the apostles. There are so many Judases in this story, it's hard to count them all, but let's try. The white men who designed and carried out the Tuskegee syphilis study, Taliaferro Clark, Thomas Murrell, Raymond Vanderleer, and Oliver C. Winger are among them. The black women used to track the men, Nurse Eunice Rivers is among them. The black doctors whose names we do not learn, but whom agreed to not treat the men, are among them. Dr. Brodus Butler, who chaired the ad hoc panel, is among them. The government of the United States of America is among them. World Bank Fund, the American Medical Association, the U.S. Public Health Service, and Centers for Disease Control are among them. Question 8. Washington points out that PHS documents verify that the sera of the infected Tuskegee subjects was used to develop more reliable tests for syphilis, on which the U.S. government profited handsomely. Do you believe that the benefits gained from the Tuskegee syphilis study outweigh the cost paid by the black men and their families to reap those awards? Question 9. Washington is medical ethicist, and her approach in this book and chapter is to highlight the unethical actions of medical professionals. Yes, those whom have vowed to do no harm. Do you believe that the limits imposed by ethical behavior are too costly in the march toward progress, or that humanity might benefit by a slower pace of progress that allows a place for integrity, compassion, and justice? Question 10. How is humanity impacted when integrity and ethics are devalued?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody? Y'all always want me to start something.
Only if you have something to say.
Well, you know I always have something to say. Oh, let's see. Progress. Do you believe that the benefits gained from the Tuskegee syphilis study outweigh the cost paid by the black men and their families to reap those rewards? I'm going to say no, but I know, and Venita knows, I am an oddball from way back. See my 70s hair going on, Randie? I think that we pay a deep, deep, deep human cost for the pace of technological change that we favor in Western society. The doctors wanted to learn what happens to your body, to a black body, when it is not treated for syphilis. Because, of course, they believe that what happened to a black body would be different from what would happen to a white body. If they had not done the study, what would have happened? It didn't seem to have an impact on the discovery of penicillin as a cure. So we still would have penicillin. We may not have or had at that time the test. The government created a test for syphilis using the bodily fluids from these men, and the test was popular and sold all over the world, and the U.S. government made a lot of money from it. So that might not have happened at the time that it happened if we had slowed down our curiosity. I think that we can afford to wait on learning various things a lot of times, but we have been sort of trapped on this mode that has accelerated, I think at a fantastic pace in our lifetime, Venita. The rate of change that we have seen is really unprecedented in human history, and I think it's too much. I think it is driving people crazy. I think it is leading to all sorts of unethical practices, Tuskegee being just one example. And I think that we're not understanding the cost of the progress that we want so badly. Think of climate change. Think of all the ways that technology in that area has led to damage to our environment, to our ecosystem. We're moving too fast. Anybody else?
Well, you brought up an interesting part about moving too fast. I'm not sure it's just the speed that's the problem, but the lack of care, a lack of empathy for what the effects will be, not just what you're trying, the result of your experiment, but if you are in search of this goal also doing harm in this area, well then that's not a good goal to be seeking after. And then also the interjection of finances into, has colored everything. It's overshadowed ethics and behavior, humanity. Once you interject riches into the prospect, everything goes out the window.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So whatever cure you might have come up with or solution, even if there was a cure that finally cured cancer, would they give it to the people? Would they give it to the people at an affordable price? Would they give it to everyone?
No.
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 That's right.
No.
So the sacrifices, the sacrifices these men made, willingly or unwillingly, and everyone else who's been in a project that they don't know about, are for naught, because there's one group here that's going to profit from it. Not the people who are ill from whatever that the disease is, but the people who want to make money off of supplying the cure for that disease.
Well,
So,
that's a question. Why is it that we seem to be the victims all the time of the horrid, disgusting, experimental, scientific research in this country? But on the other hand, white folk, they may be a part of research, but it's always for researching to try to create the superhuman, white human. That's 6'2" with Mediterranean blue eyes and blonde hair, or their research is on. No, I'm just wondering.
Well,
and it's the truth. As they have their research going on, but their research is always pretty.
well,
That research, no, really. And the funny thing about it is they're not trying to research on the pretty things on us. Well, let's see how we can produce, since we're so weak, the super Negro. You know,
I think that was called a movie called The Terminator.
right, with the perfect texture of coarse hair, and the perfect brown eyes, and the perfect muscle. No, they do research on them, but their research is always to conquer. Their research is always to be, you understand? They research on us to cure, to find out ways to cure them, but their research is always to make them super, or their intellect, to make it, I just wonder about that. But nobody questioned that because nobody questions anything, so I just heard.
well, well.
I guess I should be quiet.
There are.
I was quiet.
There are some terrible things that white people have experienced in the name of medical science. That's just not what we're focused on in this book. But I do get into in one of the later sections, and it's 734, about the issue of bullying, which I think goes to your question, Venita, about why is it that black people are always the subject of these kinds of things. So let's hold that for a minute and get through a little bit more. Could someone read section D, please? Who has not read?
I haven't. I don't feel like reading. I'll read it. Section D. Apparently, lots of people lack the courage to stand up for what is right in the face of injustice. Fear of death or economic fears allow otherwise good people to sit idly by as wrongdoing occurs. The black men and women in our society, like the nurse who tracked the subjects in the Tuskegee syphilis study, as well as the doctors who agreed not to treat them, are examples of people who are probably motivated mostly by fear, our very own Judases. Number 11. How do you feel learning about black people who helped the Tuskegee syphilis study succeed in preventing black men from receiving needed treatment? 12. Is there a time in your life when you have had to face your fears? And if so, what happened and how did you do it? 13. Do you know of any tools, methods, techniques, or strategies we might use as individuals to increase our personal courage?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody?
Well, we already talked about how I felt about the black folks helping the Tuskegee syphilis study succeed in preventing black men from receiving needed treatment. Was there a time in my life when I had to face my fears? And if so, what happened and how did you do it? I don't know. I think folks that have courage is something that, I don't know if you can be taught that. I think I can speak for myself, I think it's innate. I think you have those people that will stand for what's right and already know there will be consequences. There are those people that know that the road that's traveled, they will be criticized for traveling that road. There are people that will stand for what's right and don't care about the economic incentives or otherwise. And I just think it's something innate. I don't know if you can teach a person courage. I really don't. And that's why we've had people in our country that have died for us and didn't think about, well, if I try to do this or do that, then I might not make it. So I don't think I'm going to do it. Or if I see something wrong, I think I'll just hush my mouth. Because after all, if Master find out, we'll all be in trouble. You know, I guess you're talking to the wrong person. Because I think people don't have a lot of respect for people that don't have any courage, that don't stand for anything. Stand for something, anything. Stand for a butterfly, save an ant, do something. But I just, I just think that we have the courage to fight each other. We got the courage to call each other names. We got the courage to make each other feel less than. So we got some courage. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Off topic. I don't want to sound like I'm ranting, but I just don't understand the courage part of it. We got courage to carry guns and shoot each other through the head. We got courage to sell dope to children on corners, our own children. We got all that courage.
Well,
I'm not trying to, I'm just, it depends on where you want to put your courage or where you want to place your courage. Is that it? Am I missing something?
Well.
Yes, Michelle. Come on, let's pretty it up, Michelle. Pretty it up.
I don't know if I can this time, Venita.
There was straight, no chaser. It's all right. That's you, Venita. That's all right, baby. We understand.
We understand. Michelle is my best friend, because she pretties it up. Pretty it up, Michelle. Come on, I'll start with you. Well, now, Venita, let's take it. Yeah, we all are different people. We all have different ways. Go on, Michelle, take it from there.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
Okay.
But no, I mean, in terms of your point about whether or not we can teach courage, I don't know. I mean, I think that as parents, we have a lot of influence. Certainly, we cannot control who our children become, and we're only one piece of the puzzle that influences that process, but we have some influence. And so you know that book or the idea that everything you needed to learn about life you learned by kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Is I think really what's at issue. We keep confronting bullies in our lives, or we keep confronting situations that scare us in our lives, and I do think that we can move from being totally fearful to learning how to face our fears. And so bullying comes up in the next section, which I'm going to read because it'll flow right into this. But, you know, I just want to say on this section that you know, learning to conquer our fears is a process. And I don't know what the actual steps or process is. You know, probably a psychologist or some kind of therapist is who we should be talking to. But I think you're right, Venita, that there's a certain level of natural, innate courage that some people have, but that, you know, it's like something that's a talent versus a skill. If you have an abundance of courage just naturally, then it's a talent for you. But if you want to develop the skill of being courageous, that can be a learned process. The example, of course, for me that you guys know about of facing my fear is the homelessness situation. And Venita knows I was running from homelessness like a champ for years. It was on my back, and I was like, no, Shelly ain't going down like that.
All right.
Oh, and to the point that it had me suicidal, really, because just the thought of all that situation could be was so scary to me. And I finally realized that it was a fear issue. And, you know, I wish I could tell you all that I realized that it was fear and I decided to confront my fear. No, I got pushed off the edge.
No, that didn't come from courage. I say that's no. That's what I'm telling you. She's courageous, but that wasn't no courage. You know? Ain't nothing to do with courage, honey.
I got pushed off the edge, and I said, "Oh, I better try to stay alive."
Okay. Necessity.
Yes, necessity. Hello, Joelle. And so I found my courage along the way. And that's why I say I think there probably is a process that one can go through to help them face their fears. You know, like if you're afraid of flying. And, you know, I don't know, you do things like, I don't know, go up in tall buildings or something. That you learn to do things to build yourself up to face those things that scare you.
Michelle, I've always been afraid of scary movies, and there are some things I'm afraid of. And I'm still afraid of scary movies today. I'm not trying to find the courage to watch one. I don't need to watch one.
Well, we don't always have to face our fears, but like the homelessness, sometimes life presents us with a situation where we have to face our fears whether we want to or not. I didn't want to.
I was going to say something funny, Michelle, but I won't do it. All right, I'll stop. Oh, I'm gonna stop, Michelle. I'm gonna bring her for tonight. I should just go to bed.
Yes. All right, I'm gonna go on and read this last section, which is called "Lessons Still Unlearned." Washington shares that Macon County Attorney Fred Gray filed a $1.8 billion class action civil lawsuit on July 23, 1973, which named as defendants HEW, the PHS, the CDC, the state of Alabama, and the Milbank Fund, among others. The suit resulted in a 1974 out-of-court settlement for more than $10 million. It yielded a mere $37,500 for each living study participant, $15,000 for his heirs, and nearly $1 million in legal fees for Gray, which was deducted from the payments made to the men. She informs her readers. She also points out that the 1972 end of the Tuskegee syphilis study did not bring an end to medical experimentation on Black Americans. Question 14. What do bullies learn when they succeed? 15. What do you know or have you taught your children about stopping bullies? 16. What incentive does the U.S. government have, or for that matter, any bully, abuser, or oppressor, to cease and desist inflicting pain on his or her victims if the punishment does not fit the crime? Were you satisfied by the out-of-court settlement the men received in 1973 and or the 1997 apology offered by Bill Clinton? How might a focus on ethics help to end the use of Black bodies as experimental subjects? Anybody?
I don't think a focus on ethics would help end the use of Black bodies. I feel like white people know what they're doing, and scientists, know what they're doing. And earlier we talked about how progression of technology wreaks havoc, and I don't think that it was progression of technology or progression of a study that made the Tuskegee experiment so horrendous. It was the fact that white scientists are really doing this, at least in my opinion, reading the chapter, they're really doing this to prove a racist ideology. They didn't really care if syphilis really affected Black people differently. I think they ultimately wanted to prove that it did, if it did, so that they could justify all the hell they've put us through. And if you can say that a disease affects somebody differently, then you can really justify anything. And I think that I don't know what type of punishment these people would have to go through in order to stop what they've done and what they continue to do. Especially, like she said at the end of the chapter, this experiment didn't stop anything. She still got 8 more chapters left, and this is crazy. I don't think I could think of is that they have to meet God. But everybody don't think like that. Everybody's not religious or spiritual. So if you're not, I guess you go kind of crazy thinking that maybe the U.S. and the oppressors and white people and the internalized racist Black people won't ever really get justice. And so I think that's where bullies get their fuel from. I don't think they'll ever really be stopped, or people don't really believe they can ever really be stopped, which goes back to the courage and speaking up. And it's just, this chapter was difficult. I don't know. I feel like I'm just saying stuff. I don't even know what I'm saying.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, it was a difficult chapter in a different way from the gruesome one, chapter 5, but very difficult, very sad. But have I ever shared my Dick or Dickie theory with you guys?
Your what?
I don't think so.
This is Michelle's theory of Dick or Dickie. And it goes like this. The decor is having a good time. the Dickie may or may not be having a good time. If the Dickie is not having a good time, it is incumbent upon the Dickie to find a resolution. Because the Dickor doesn't have a problem. The Dickor is having a good time. The Dickor will continue to have a good time as long as he is allowed to do so.
By the Dickie.
No, by the Dickie.
All right.
So unless the Dickie stands up and says, no, no, no,
That's it.
then this will go on forever.
Very good analogy. I like that. Dickor Dickie.
Well, you know the song "Everything is Everything," the expression "Everything is Everything." That's really how my brain works. Everything is everything, and that's why you will see me put bully and abuser and oppressor and Dickor all in the same sentence, because to me they are all the same person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they function in different arenas, but their behavior is always the same. They are having a good time. They want what they want. They're going to get what they want, and they don't care about the impact on their victim.
Yes.
So if you are waiting on the Dickor to say, are you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in pain?
No.
No.
Can I do something to make this an enjoyable experience for you? Then you're waiting in vain.
Here.
So with that perspective, I certainly believe that it is incumbent upon Black people to find the ways to protect ourselves, not only from unjust medical experimentation, but from all of the ways that we are oppressed and abused around the world. And you know, what we call white man, and really, I hate that term for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is when I hear Black men say, the man, I want to say to them, who are you? Are you the boy? Are you the child? Are you the helpless victim of the man? Are we not all the man?
Apparently not.
You know, can't we all find some courage? You know, I mean, a lot of what white people do, and you know, and this I know from being around a lot of white people all my life, is a lot of what they do, as insane as we know they are, a lot of what they do is very logical. They stand up for themselves. They defend themselves. And to a large extent, they are so scared of us because they think that we are going to respond like they would respond. They think that we are going to defend ourselves. What does the bully do when he takes your lunch the first day and you don't do anything about it?
Never had that experience.
Well, he comes back tomorrow.
He won't.
And he takes your lunch again. And then by the next day, he's telling you what to put in the lunch.
I'll see.
You better make sure you bring some jello.
Right.
I can't hear no more. I can't hear no more. That stuff makes me dizzy. I can't hear no more.
You know, what does the bully do? That's what he does.
Yes.
And we know that, and we learned it in kindergarten. So how is it that we keep giving up our lunch? And if you're the mother, everybody here is a parent except Randie, and your child came home hungry, and you said, "Why are you so hungry, little Billy?" Johnny took my lunch. What? And what did you do?
Child, you have to realize that a lot of children are being raised by bullies. So that's one of the reasons why they have not developed maybe that skill that you might think that you can develop to fight against bullies. I've heard a lot of conversations. I've heard black parents talk to their children in ways I would never think about talking to mine. I've seen them, black, white, and green, bully their children. So a lot of children might have been born with that innate courage, but if you have a parent that bullies you, then you learn to let others bully you too. Now, how many times have I seen a mother, which really makes me feel sick on my stomach? I can't even deal with stuff like that. And the poor child is trying to tell her something. My children anytime they had something to say to me, my son would tell you, I would stop and look in their face to listen to what they had to say. I've seen mothers and fathers, you shut up, Johnny, sit down. I don't want to hear what you have to say. So how can they have courage to stand up for themselves once they don't stay 5, they turn to 10, 15, 20, 50, 80, and that's a problem I find with us.
So are you saying that when we beat our children, we are teaching them to expect an ass whooping from the white man?
Damn straight. When we sit there and we spank, I see, I am against hitting people, period. I know that's how they used to do it. I have never been a recipient of an ass whooping. I've never had one. Okay? But when you are beating your child, and I hate that word, whipping, beating, it just makes me feel sick. Even if you listen to how it sounds sick. What do you think you're doing to your child? You're teaching your child the only way you can learn is if I knock you upside the head, if I whip you or hit you, and you're bullying them. A person this big with a person that big standing over them, hitting them. But that is my opinion. You do have some who feel like the only way for a person to learn is to beat them.
Let's welcome Joel to the group. Joel, can you hear us? Your mute is on.
It's 8 o'clock, Joel.
Or maybe you're frozen. Okay. If you get unfrozen, let us hear from you, Joel.
What do you want? I mean,
Joel?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you now, but I can't see you.
Okay. You know, that's probably a better thing anyway.
Okay. Well, just give us your introduction so I can add that to the tape.
Okay. I'm Joel Jones from South Carolina. How's everybody doing?
We're good. We're good.
Group, we thought you got it.
And glad you made it in. Even though we can see you still have some technical issues. Did you want to comment on anything in the chapter? Well,
Oh no, it's just Anything in the chapter? Oh,
Yeah.
uh, I just look at. I thought I listened to your question 10 about ethics. Uh,
Hmm.
I thought that was quite interesting, um, because um, and I was listening to a lot of comments about different things. But I wonder what is our Tuskegee of today that that we're standing quietly by, and we're in the middle of things, and we watch happen. I think that a lot of times, middle of something, they have the power.
We're losing you, Joe. All right. Um, Kim and Georgette, Venita has just hogged the screen tonight.
I like Randy's question about what is our Tuskegee today. And I was reading somewhere, I think it was on Facebook, that 64,000 black women went missing last year.
Mm,
Yeah.
64,000
Wow.
last year. So are we still being used for body parts? That's a lot of people.
Hmm.
That's a lot of women. And when we're talking about bullying and Dick versus Dickie or Dickor, it seems like those analogies are basically when two people have the same amount of power. And that is systematically not what I see. I see that sometimes it's a sick black person against the United States government. And when I look at Tuskegee, I think there was somebody who went in to see a doctor not knowing that the situation that he found himself into was that the United States government needed to make money off of him, and the system was already in place to kick his ass before he even got there. So I don't know how it equates to being bullied. I think it equates more to terrorism, and that's just my feeling. But I do feel that there's got to be some sort of solution where you come together with like-minded people and start to push back and figure out what your power base is and how to undo some of that. And then in terms of the question from the last reading, just me personally, in terms of what courage or situations have I seen that help improve things, for me, groups like this one, um, learning your history, knowing what you're up against, and then starting out on a plan. I think that a lot of African American people are either asleep, addicted, or fighting battles alone. And for me, one of the things that's been extremely helpful is to understand the pathology in my own family so that I'm not the one that's passing it along to the next generation, so that I can actually have real conversations with people in my family. So for my brother and I to talk about syphilis today, it was just like, and then what happened? Yeah, she was blind, huh? And so it just kind of says who raised my parents and how they raised us. And it makes me have so much love and forgiveness for my family, I can't tell you. And I think that's where we start with eliminating some of the self-hate. I just really, really adore my father because I don't know what his little life was like when he was young. And so the fact that, he did what he did with what he was given, and then he gave me a certain percentage of that, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't feel the bitterness that I had felt previously when I didn't understand the whole story and how the system and the terrorism in America helped to raise me.
Hmm.
So that just gives me so much hope and so much courage, and I just feel like when I read books like Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, those are the type of things that say, you know what, we can do this, but this is going to be some emotionally dredging up, and then coming together and loving each other through it. So those are some of my thoughts.
Well, thank you. And that is a high note for us to start to bring it down with. But Georgette, I know you got a high note for us too. What you got?
Oh my goodness. I loved everything you said there, Kim. And I loved especially finding your power base. And maybe that's where, you know, we have to do it individually and then collectively.
Mm-hmm.
And taking the successes from the past. You looked at what happened, but they still survived. So
That's
that means that we came from them and we can still survive. All we have to do is cut through the bullshit and
mm-hmm.
keep it together, and we'll survive too.
Thank you. Randie, you have any final thoughts?
Well, I agree with Kim. I was just thinking today. I told y'all last week that my grandfather may or may not have prostate cancer. Something's wrong, but he won't go look at it. But he used to sharecrop when he was younger, and he I think he had to leave like in 5th grade to go back to work. So he never finished his education, really. So he self-taught himself to and through like watching to do what he does. He fixes popcorn machines and other machines around Atlanta, and he's pretty. They call him a lot. He still is making pretty good money. But it made me just feel so much compassion for all of our people, even the ones that don't make sense, even the new blacks. Like it just makes me feel so much compassion, really, because we never really got help. They
Mm-hmm.
freed us, but not really. Especially the black still in poverty, and just because slavery ended, here doesn't mean that they weren't still shipping people over here. So like we've been through so much, and white supremacy has literally tried to wipe us out. Like we read in the book last week, they thought we'd be done by 2000, and 15 years later. So it makes me feel very empowered. It makes me sad, but it makes me feel very empowered, and just I just love my people, but I don't want to just survive anymore. And I feel like we've just been doing that. While survival is good, we're still here. I don't want to just survive. Get to a point in our society where we're not just surviving and there's not just a few of us making it, or just a few of us in this book club, or just a few of us knowing of this book. I had no idea about this book until you suggested it for this session. So I don't know what we can do to put it out there more and have people actually read it, because it is difficult to read. And if I didn't have the book club, I don't know if I would have made it past, the first 5 chapters, like you said, would be very difficult. So because I have to read it, obviously, it's pushed me to read it. And, now, of course, I want to keep reading it. But I don't know. It makes me, I just feel for us a lot. I really do. Even the ones who have a lot of issues, because we never got help, and so much has been taken from us, and all this trauma we've carried on in our families, and it's a shame. It really is.
Yeah. Venita, any final thoughts?
When I read this chapter, I have heard of this study many times in the past. I never got that much in depth as I had in this chapter. I'm not as angry with us for not having the courage to stand up for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry more at the system that has not changed. I looked at this last question about ethics. How might we focus on ethics to help to end the use of black bodies as experimental subjects? We live in a country where there are no ethics.
That's right.
There's never been any ethics. So you can't produce something that has never been there. The people that run this country, the ones that sit on Capitol Hill, as I said before, those $5,000 suit wearing thugs, they have no ethics. when you read this chapter, you see the government had no ethics. The doctors, white and black, had no ethics.
That's right.
The nurse had no ethics. So I don't understand where we're going to get ethics from. We live in a country that has always been unethical, is even more ethical now than it's ever been. I just like to see anybody with a white hood on tonight. But United. But you know, no one has any ethics. You know what I'm saying? I mean, one thing I used to, when I was growing up, there was always all types of people. But I just found then, even the ones that might have drank all Friday night, you know, and whatever they did, they still had a bottom, as Michelle would say.
Yeah.
They had a bottom, you know. The one people that gamble ran numbers in the city. Believe it or not, they still had a bottom. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We don't have that. There is no bottom.
That's right.
You know, so I don't even think that takes courage. It's just how low will you go? How low can you go and be a black physician and help someone hurt anyone? Much less your own people. How low can you go to be a nurse? And I don't want to hear about she didn't know in 25 years, because I wouldn't want her to be a nurse of mine. If she was that ditz, then she couldn't do anything to me anyway. To be honest with you. But I mean, you know, it's just I don't know. I try to have hope and you know, but I'm telling you, it's not looking good. Because we can't even talk to each other. First of all, if we not talk to each other, I don't know, Michelle. Maybe you got an answer.
We're talking to each other right now.
That's right.
We do talk to each other. Thank God we can talk to each other. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have some sane people around me. You know, just to be able to.
The one thing I want to say about bullying, because I don't want to leave you all with the wrong impression, is that yes, we are talking about unequal power relationships.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. But what I'm trying to say is it always starts somewhere. And sometimes we even have to stand up to a bully that is bigger than us, that is more powerful than us. And how do we challenge ourselves to learn how to do that? You know, I thought a lot. You know, we had a new person who came to visit with us last week, and I thought a lot about the point that she was making, that her parents, and I think she's probably a little bit older than all of us, that her parents had taught her how to say yes ma'am and yes sir and you know, and how to make it through a transaction and that kind of thing. And then later in the week, a friend sent me a video, and it was of a black woman who was a worker at a Walmart in Texas, I think. And a white woman came in and they had some disagreement about something. I don't know. But next thing you know, the white woman headbutted the black woman. Hard. I mean, you could hear it. Well, I knew the black girl was going to wipe the floor with her.
She had a death wish. Talk about a death wish.
Because what else could she do?
I'm trying to laugh,
but that's my generation. She was younger than me.
Yeah.
But that kind of thinking, I think, comes out of my generation, which is the generation of change. And so what I'm saying is we can keep doing what we've always done and getting the results that we've always gotten, or we can challenge ourselves to think about what is within our power to do differently on the chance that we might have a different outcome. I'm like Randie, who says, you know, I'm tired of just surviving. I want to thrive. You know, how is it that black people are just going to accept the place that has been set for us in the world without as much as a whimper? Are we going to become extinct without as much as a whimper? Or are we going to challenge ourselves to become actors in our own lives? And so this was a very painful chapter for me to read because of all of the betrayal by everybody involved. But I also realized that was a time of much greater innocence than we can lay claim to today. Today we know these things happen. And today we know that we cannot afford to move through life with our eyes closed, acting as if we're helpless victims who just have to wait on the man to do whatever it is he's going to do. Who are we? And what are we going to do? That's all I have tonight, ladies.
Okay. Very powerful. We got some emotions that came out tonight, boy.
Yeah, this chapter.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the thing is, we've been dealing with the 1700s and the 1800s, but she brought us right on up to today.
That did not feel so good.
Yeah.
Yes. When you start seeing
the roll of the dial
going up, you know, then it really brought home how. Hi, baby.
I have a guest this evening.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kim. Hi. And we have Randie. Look at Randie. She's cute, huh? Look how cute.
Is this our lighter note?
Yeah. He has changed. Every week he gets more personality. So he's just very special in every way.
He looks older.
Yes. He acts older. You know, he's got a lot of new tricks.
Yeah.
Very
He's so interested. He's so
He's looking at all you guys. He's really paying attention. You see?
Oh, pretty.
Randie, look at Randie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary, right there, Randie. She gonna wait for you. What's the matter? What's the matter? Here. It's bedtime.
What kind of future?
Bedtime.
What kind of future do we want for this boy?
Well, we want a wife like Randie.
Randie, I think she's trying to hook you up.
As far as I can think right now, I'll probably be dead, but that's okay.
Okay, everybody, it is 8:21.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and
Okay.
enjoy your week. Who's up for
Thank
next week?
you.
Do we know?
I think that's me. Yeah, that's me.
I'm not here next week. So
Oh,
I'm
and is that the chapter about the stork?
Kim's
Yeah.
not here?
Oh, Kim's not here next week.
I'm not here next week, and then on the 14th of April, I'm not here again. So I have to switch with somebody because that was my time to.
We miss you when you're not here. Twice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so next week and then the 14th.
Okay.
Motherhood calls.
Okay.
Motherhood calls.
Book club. I'll be in my apartment.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wow,
Congratulations.
I'm so excited.
When are you
We
going
are
to be
so
in your
excited.
apartment, Randy?
What do you say?
When are you going to be in your apartment?
We're moving Saturday.
This
Cool.
Saturday?
So by Tuesday, I will be in our apartment because the apartment is like 10 minutes from here, so I don't have to stay on the campus.
Cool.
When I select I can just drive home and still be here before it ends. So I'm
Cool.
excited.
That's good.
Yay.
Okay. We lost Joel. I was going to see if he could maybe switch with Kim for the 14th.
I'm going to say good night. I got to get going, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Good
I
night.
gotta get home.
Everyone.
Okay, good night,
All right.
everybody.
Good night.
I'll see y'all later.
Talk to you later.
Good night.
Georgette, might you be in contact with Joel to ask him if he could switch to the 14th to do chapter 10?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him and see what he says and have him shoot you an email.
Okay, yeah. Chapter 10 instead of Kim. Okay.
Thank you.
All
Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Good night.